On today's show, after a wild weekend for the Ottawa Senators, it's a game day. We've got a preview of tonight's matchup in Nashville against the Predators.
And we have an interview with former NHL tough guy and now color commentator with Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's Jody Shelley.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller down in the Sunshine State. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Sunday, February 2nd, and Pilsy, the Senators are 8-0 on weekends going back to the end of December. A 6-0 victory over the Minnesota Wild. You weren't in the postcast on Saturday night, so what were your thoughts watching that one?
I was shocked as I was watching along with the box score, Ross, because the first period, still 0-0 until the end of it. The Sens start getting going. And then I checked out for a little bit and checked back in at the third period, and this game had just gotten out of control. And it was especially surprising, Ross, because we talked with our good pal, Seth Tupal from Locked On Wild, and he was waxing poetic about how good this Minnesota Wild team is on the road. And that started to make me nervous and thinking, okay, is a team that's this good on the road, like the Minnesota Wild, going to end the weekend streak for the Sens and put a damper on the end of their home streak here before they go on the road, before the Four Nation face-off? And the Ottawa Senators clearly had different ideas with a 6-0 win.
3 goals on the power play, a goal shorthanded, just a bit of everything. And I love how they avenged Tim Stutzle after taking that dirty intent to injure play and scored 3 on that power play. Ryan Hartman, who made the list on Saturday, he will have an in-person hearing with the Department of Player Safety. I didn't realize that he's been fined and suspended like almost 5 times each in the NHL so far. So throw the book at him, kick him off the tour, Doug, and get this guy out of here. So we'll follow that along as it continues. We'll probably get the news on that on Tuesday. But the boys came together, including Jake Sanderson, who had a goal and 4 assists, an enormous standout performance in this game, Pilsy. He only needed 1 point to get to 100 for his career, but he decided to get a goal and 3 assists, had 5 shots on goal as well. We were a little cautious about Jake Sanderson after about the second week of the season. He had a bit of a slump there, but he is all the way back.
Yeah, and Ross, it's great to see him get points on the power play, shorthanded. Like, I especially loved his play shorthanded, where he gets possession of the puck in his own zone, slows things down, pedals back a little bit, sees Norris racing down the wing and flips it up. And Marco Rossi actually should get an assist on that one, Ross, because he slows the puck right down for Norris, and then Norris makes no mistake, tucks it in backhand around Gustafsson. So I love Jake Sanderson game, and he mentioned in the post-game interviews, Ross, that when he's on the power play, he's just trying to have more confidence shooting the puck. And we saw that as he just ripped one clear in that beats Gustafsson. Sure, some traffic in front, but it doesn't get deflected. And that's a goal scorer's goal right there.
It certainly was. He looks awesome, man. It's so great to see Sanderson playing well with Artem Zub. In his career now, we mentioned he hits 100 points. He's at 103 points now in 207 games. He became the 3rd fastest defenseman in Senators history to reach 100 points. Thomas Chabot did it in 166 games, if you can believe it. And Erik Karlsson did it in 168 games, 2 games behind Thomas Chabot. So Jake Sanderson a little further back, 207 games, but averaging over 23 minutes per game, 18 goals, 85 assists. Pilsy, I think what's even most impressive is going up against the other team's top players night in, night out, and has for the most part of his career already. And if you take out the fight he had with Matthew Tkachuk, that's 36 penalty minutes, meaning that in 207 games, Jake Sanderson has taken 18 minor penalties.
Yeah, it's crazy how disciplined this guy is, especially with, like you mentioned, the top competition he's up against and how much he plays. But Ross, we'll give Sanderson a bit of leeway when it comes to getting to 100 points as fast as Shabbat and Carlson, as I think it's fair to say Jake Sanderson is a little bit more defensively focused than those two guys.
Yes.
Although Shabbat's coming around defensive-wise.
Yeah, he is. But this is an all-around stud in the making. So shout out Jake Sanderson for having a great weekend. Our locked on player of the weekend for sure. Pilsy, we got breaking news here, and I will lead into it with a photo of the line chart. Look at the goalies, and then guess what happened?
Look at that. Ullmark confirmed starting, or is that you just being a little bit optimistic that he'll be starting?
That's being optimistic, but the news has come out, Pilsy. Leevi Meriläinen has been sent down to Belleville. Ooh. Bittersweet. When's the last time a goalie's gotten a shutout and then sent down the next day?
Yeah, or he's clearly got the best numbers of any goalie on his team, and he's sent down like this. But I think a lot of Sens fans are going to be up in outrage with this because, I mean, it's tough to really be able to justify sending down a guy that's been playing as good as Leevi. But when you're replacing him with Linus Ullmark, a former Vezina winner who also has been playing really good before he got hurt, it makes it a little bit easier. And I just think, Ross, we went over this. If you put Forsberg down and you lose him from waivers and then you get another injury, whether it's Leevi or Linus, God forbid, but if that happens, then you're in a really tough spot. So although this probably is not the popular decision that Sens fans want, I do believe it is the smart one.
Yes, it's the least risked move because you can call them up anytime. Yeah. And I believe Belleville is on their all-star break right now. So it's almost just a little time off for Leevi Meriläinen, and he's deserved it. He's played a lot of hockey right now. My question to you, Pilsy, and we'll pull up his numbers for the entirety of his stint in the NHL this year, 8-3-1. And I believe that in at least 2, if not 3, let's get a disclaimer on this one, in 2 of his losses, the Ottawa Senators did not score a goal.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got 3 shutouts too. So, like, Linus Ullmark has been exactly what the Sens expected from him. Ross, I know this is probably the next part of the conversation, so I'll just get my answer in. Linus Ullmark has to start against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know people want him starting tonight up against the Nashville Predators, but I'm going to be in Tampa. I brought my Ullmark jersey with me, and let's be honest, the Tampa Bay Lightning is the matchup that is much, much, much more crucial to this team in the grand scheme of things. So I think that makes sense.
Forsey beat Tampa, though, earlier this year.
Then let him have the second game up against Tampa when I go home.
There you go. Leevi Meriläinen makes 50 saves on his last 51 shots against in 2 games, but he's sent down. So, Pilsy, put yourself in Steve Staios' shoes. How does that conversation go with Leevi?
I mean, I think this is one of those, maybe you started off with, look, kid, this is a business. And it's not always about the stats and about what goes on the ice. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where you can be sent down without any risk. You're younger. We can't send Forsberg down without any risk unless he agreed to a 2-week conditioning stint, which is kind of a cheap move that I don't think Forsberg would maybe go for. Who knows? I shouldn't speak for him, but that's just my assumption. And it's an opportunity to play more. Maybe that's how I would rephrase it, Ross, because with 3 goalies, that's just a lose-lose-lose situation for everybody, in my opinion. Maybe not Linus Ullmark, because he would get a bulk of the starts for sure, but it's much more beneficial for Leevi Meriläinen to go down to Belleville with all that confidence that he dominates in the NHL. You're going to get a lot of rubber when you do end up playing there, because that team has a lot of injuries and they're struggling right now, although they've been getting better as of late. But I just think you got to tell him you'd rather be a number 1 goalie in Belleville than be a number 3 guy or a 2C goalie in the NHL. So I think Leevi would understand, but he's certainly shown that he can handle the NHL and that the Ottawa Senators, looking forward in the future, I think they can solve their backup goaltending problem internally.
Since January 11th, Leevi Meriläinen is 6-1-1 with 3 shutouts and a .945 save percentage.
Wow.
So I say salute to you,
Yes.
sir, and we will see you soon in Ottawa. The lineup we expect to stay the same. Just one asterisk here. Josh Norris left Saturday's game late. No update on his condition. Hopefully it's not anything that's going to cause him to miss games, but they did call up Cole Reinhardt today.
Right.
I saw a lot of panic on Twitter, but let's keep in mind here, they're on a 4-game road trip with 3 games in 4 nights coming up, starting tonight in Nashville. So I think it could just be having an extra body on the trip. That's at least what I hope. So we expect it to be Stutzle, Tkachuk, Giroux, Norris, Perron, Batherson, Pinto, Gregg, Amadio, Ostapchuk, Highmore, and Gaudette, Sanderson and Zub, Shabbat and Kamenik, Clevin and Matin Paolo, Ullmark and Forsberg in goal. Pilsy, quickly give me a locked-on player to watch.
My locked-on player to watch, Ross, is going to be a guy who, despite being a 6-0 game, did not factor into the offense. We talked about how we wanted the top offensive guys to get going, and my God, have they got going recently. So I'm going to take a look at some of the depth scoring. I'm going to be locked on to number 81, Adam Gaudette. I want to see if he's going to be able to take advantage of some of the weaker depth on the Nashville Predators lineup, because when we take a look at the Nashville Predators top 6, it's actually pretty good. So I want to see if Adam Gaudette can spark a little offense on that 4th line.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to go a different direction here, Pilsy. I'm going to go up top. Tim Stutzle, ever since getting the buzz cut, he's just popped off heavily here. He's got 7 points in his last 4 games, including a 3-point effort against Minnesota. He's going to look nails again. He had the black eye earlier in the year. Well, now he's got a little cut on top of his eye. So, hey, let's see Tim Stutzle. To me, he's going to be the most talented player on the ice. Maybe Philip Forsberg, maybe Roman Josi, but he's right up there with those guys. That's how skilled we believe Tim Stutzle to be. So I'm going to be watching for Tim Stutzle in this game against Nashville. For the Predators, who are losers of 4 in a row after winning 5 straight. So I feel like it's only fair that we just even things right out for them and hand them another L. Senators, by the way, 4 straight wins for them since returning home. So they're on a nice little run themselves. So it's 4 straight wins against 4 straight losses. And Ottawa won the first game of this, which will be the final of the season series, 3-1 in Ottawa. It was a late goal from Fedor Svechkov that really stuck the wind out of a shutout for Linus Ullmark. So that's unfortunate. So hopefully we get another good defensive effort, although I think Ullmark was brilliant in that game, if I remember correctly. We expect the Predators to line up with Steven Stamkos at top line center with Philip Forsberg and Gustav Nyquist, Ryan O'Reilly between Zachary Leroux and Jonathan Marchessault, Fedor Svechkov with Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista, and then Michael McCarron between Cole Smith and Colton Sissons. On the back end, Roman Josi with Luke Shen, Brady Shea with Nick Blankenberg, and Adam Wilsby with Justin Barron. And then UC Saros in goal. If not, it will be Justus Annunen. So Meriläinen gets sent down, and then they go and they play a team with 2 Finnish goalies. How about that?
Yeah, that's too bad, as Meriläinen might be able to outshine either one of those guys right now the way he's playing.
Whoa.
I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. I'm not saying he's a better goalie than UC Saros, but I'm just saying in a 1-game matchup. I mean, UC Saros, Ross, right now is sitting at a .284, .902 save percentage and an 11-21-6 record. Not the UC Saros we're used to seeing, although he does have him beat in shutouts with 4, but we're talking about a heck of a lot more games played with 39 for Saros.
Yeah, we are. And Saros, a heck of a goalie. He was in net, though, for that first matchup between the Sens and the Predators. So make sure to tune in after the game to the postcast. We'll take you through all the highs and lows and what we heard on the broadcast, like with our good friend, Jody Shelley. I'm going right to good friend. This guy was great vibes. Awesome conversation with him. We hope you enjoy it. Next, you're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss. If you want to mix things up, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app, it's really easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, well, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Today's episode is brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You can watch the Super Bowl at the GLEBE Central Pub at 779 Bank Street. And when you head there on a Senators game day, make sure to let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, and you'll get 10% off your order. We've got our tickets booked. We will be at the GLEBE Central Pub on March 1st. We're going on the shuttle to the Senators game against the San Jose Sharks. So get your tickets for that online right now. Let's get these early because we can book a second bus if there is enough demand. That's the goal. Would love to see the wheels on the buses go round and round to the CTC. The bus leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game. We're going to set up shop on the 1st way early. So come, have a pint, have a good time, have some wings, have a chicken Caesar wrap, do what you need to do at the pub, and then go and watch some Senators hockey. They've also got a Sens shuttle for the game against the Habs on February 22nd and more. You can just find their whole schedule online, GLEBECentralPub.com. When you get your tickets, make sure to select that Locked On Senators sent you. The vibes are free at the GCP. They've also got live music every Saturday night. They know how to have a good time at the Glebe Central Pub. So when you're going to your next Sens game from downtown, leave your keys at home and let Sue do all the driving. It's always an awesome time. Can't wait to be back there in less than a month's time. Oh boy. Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street, and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. All right, here he is from Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's Jody Shelley. All right, we now welcome a very, very special guest. You're going to catch him tonight on the Amazon Prime broadcast between the Ottawa Senators and the Nashville Predators. It is former NHLer, now analyst for more than a decade, Jody Shelley. Jody, it's a long time you've been doing this now.
Yeah, I'm getting old. You know, I feel like I just get out of the game, but sometimes I get out there and play pickup hockey with our alumni in Columbus, and I realize I'm really, really, really out of shape. So, yeah, it's been a long time broadcasting. I love doing what I'm doing. It's I tell people it's like being a healthy scratch, except I don't have to work out and I don't have a curfew. So 2 positives.
That's a huge positive. Well, we always say we're a goalie-friendly show here, and we always say that goalies and tough guys make the best broadcasters. A, do you believe that? And 2, if so, why?
Of course I do. I think, I think as a fourth-line guy, you have to understand the game, the systems. You have to be a good team guy. You have to create new roles. You have to understand coaches. You have to bring something to the room. And I just think there's intricacies that we see and feel that some guys might not have to or pay attention to. I don't know, but I just feel like there's details of the game that we observed maybe from our time on the bench, in the press box, in the video room, and being around and taking notes and some of the great players that we played with and how they did things. And I think that benefits us as well.
Now, Jody, your last year in the NHL was 2012, 2013, and then you started, it didn't take you long, 2013, 2014, you got into your broadcasting career. Was that something where when, as your playing career is kind of slowing down, that in the back of your mind, you're like, I want to stick around hockey and I got to find ways to do it, and you thought, hey, I'm going to give broadcasting a try? Or was that something that happened a little bit more organically and you weren't expecting?
You know what? It's a little bit of both. I was at an advantage my last 3 years. So I retired at 37, wasn't playing much, and I was traveling on the plane with the Flyers with Keith Jones, their broadcast team they had there, and it was just an incredible inside look to see how they do it, you know, and what they do and their role in the team. Because as a player, you don't pay attention to a lot outside of just your teammates in that when you're on the plane. And, you know, I got to see these guys, be around them a little bit. Bill Clement was on the plane, longtime ESPN analyst. You probably remember his voice from the old Sega NHL hockey games. You know, and I got to have lunch with him and pick his brain. And then when I retired, John Davidson was the president of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Hall of Fame broadcaster. And so I sat down with him and I said, I want to be in hockey operations. I want to help solve this and learn how to be a GM. And he said, no, I got that. That's not where you're going to go. Try broadcasting. And I was hesitant, but he was right. It's a great way to follow up an NHL career as a player.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And it's clearly gone well because you've been in the same spot doing it now for such a long time. So where did this opportunity with Amazon come about? We talked to Andy Petrillo before November, and it seems like it all came together over the course of a little bit of time, but it seems like you guys have gelled so quickly together doing this every Monday night.
Yeah, they were looking for Canadians, and that helped because I grew up all over Canada. I've almost lived in every province in Canada, played hockey also in Quebec. And, that was an advantage. Plus, I just kind of got my name thrown in the hat. And as they looked and as it worked out, did a couple interviews. It seemed like a great match. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to be selected to be on this great Amazon team.
Well, speaking of which, I want to make you feel at home a little bit here.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
The Halifax Mooseheads jersey. It's not a Captain Shelley jersey, but it'll do. So you've been all over the country too, right? Growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Thompson, Manitoba, grew up on Vancouver Island, Port Hardy, BC. And then we moved, drove across Canada to Newfoundland, lived there for a year, ended up in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. And then my parents moved to Alberta. So I spent some time out there, and I was in the East Coast Hockey League, but played in Halifax, St. John, the Quebec League, as I said. So I think I've touched every province for except maybe Ontario.
The biggest one.
The biggest one. Yeah, I still got time though.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of which, like it came up recently with Logan Thompson signing his extension, and you were a bit of a pioneer. Not many people go from playing university hockey in Canada like you did with Dalhousie to then going to the NHL. So you mentioned playing the ECHL. Like I feel like a lot of your story is about grinding and finding opportunities and making the most of it. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I ended up playing 3 years in Halifax, and at the time, the Quebec League, every year you play for them, the Quebec League, you get a year of Canadian college paid for. And so I had torn my ACL my last year junior, finished the year with that. And then I had no options on the table for pro, went to college, and it was the greatest 6 months of my life. It was unreal. Dalhousie, Halifax, so I just played junior. Yeah, it was fantastic. I took full advantage of it. And then I had this moment where I saw guys that I'd fought in juniors, like George LaRock and Peter Worrell and Gordie Dwyer, in the National Hockey League. And I was like, well, I think I owe myself at least a chance to take a run at it. My mom, who's a school teacher, was devastated, but I gave up the scholarship and started my journey. And yeah, it's about grinding and just taking care of the day and wondering where you might end up.
So we always take a look at the hockeyfights.com page, and no surprise, you and Chris Neal got into it a couple times. What do you remember about Chris Neal? Obviously, a lot of people listening to this just remember this guy being an absolute warrior for 17 years.
Exactly. That guy was legit tough. Guys are big, guys are strong, but Chris Neal's tough, and he's a gamer. He was a good player. Tremendous amount of respect for what he did on the ice. I remember we had a line brawl in Philly. And you
were in that?
I was in that, and I was squared off with not that. No, I was
sorry.
there later.
Okay, I was gonna say I was a little before your time, but they had. I think it's still the most penalty minutes in a single game in the NHL.
Yeah, that one was wild. But Neal and I were tagged off, and we were going at each other, and I hit him because I had a pretty good reach on him, and I had him locked up. I hit him 3 or 4 times, and I looked at him, and he still had fight in him. I was like, oh boy. Just go down. Just stop this right now. But you're right. He's a gamer. He's a guy you got to be careful with.
A lot of people didn't know he's a lefty too. He'd switch up mid-fight.
Yeah. He was versatile.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, while we're talking about old teammates, I reached out. I know you guys kind of crossed paths. He was coming up. You were at the tail end of your career. But what do you remember about a young rookie, Mark Mathot, good friend of the show?
Yeah, he was great. I might have been a little too hard on Meth coming up as a young kid, but he was big, strong, confident kid, smart. Coach loved him and put him in great situations, and he was really starting to figure out his career, like you said, and he went on to have a really good career. But I I just remember probably being a little too hard on him at times, but I got a lot of respect for him, and he's doing broadcasting still, right? With in the Ottawa area,
TSN for the
he
Sens.
is.
Does a very good job there.
The quote, he might have been a little pissy with me, but I love him. I have a lot of respect for him.
Well, there you go.
And did you think a young Mark Mathot would be on TV looking so sharp? We're convinced his wife picks his outfits, but other than that, he does a pretty good job.
He looks real. I think he's always been a stylish guy. Him and Broussard used to hang out quite a bit when I started. But him and Jason Demers are two guys that Jason Demers I had in San Jose.
And we just had him on the show before the year. He was talking garbage about the Sens. I said, "Come say it to our face."
He said to me about 2 weeks ago when I saw him, I put him on a word count at the back of the plane, and I'd go back and say, "You got 3 more words. It's enough." Because he talks so much. Great rookie, great guy, has a nice broadcasting career now, just starting. But I was a little hard on a few of those guys I played with.
He doesn't qualify as one of the tough guys, though, that you say do the best at it, though.
No. No.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's get to the Amazon, the Prime, and tonight's game. What's it been like? Well, first, you guys are at a different rink every single week. What's that been like? I know you're always with Columbus, so it's not like you're at different rinks, but with 2 different teams, how does the preparation change going into each Monday?
Well, yeah, it starts pretty early, and we have a great support team. Our producer, Mark Askin, are all of our people in our truck. We have a lot of guys from Ottawa, actually, that support us in the truck. Our directors, our pregame producers, they're all part of the group that helps us all along. Of course, we watch the games. You talk to broadcasters, you talk to scouts, you talk to media members, you listen to podcasts like yours, pick up any kind of tidbit you can get. And it's fun. I mean, I'm a Canadian. I love being in Canadian markets. It's a different vibe. The passion in each market is the same because everyone knows their team so well. They're so detailed. They live on every moment, every play, every injury, every win. You feel a lot of responsibility to bring the true respect to each market and the details of what is expected in each market. And you really try to get a feel of and a sense of what's going on, not just with the results and the goals and the assists, but the dynamics of the team, why they're struggling, why they're in the situation, what this game means to them. It's so much fun. And the buildings in Canada and being a part, I mean, I know we're not in Canada tonight, we're in Nashville, but, having the Ottawa Senators there in a pretty good spot, they're a team that's really found their game. It creates a lot of excitement for all of us in the broadcast.
Now, what's the transition been like for you as a guy that's been in Columbus working with probably very similar producers? You got your broadcast partners, people in the truck. You get really comfortable working with those guys all the time. And then it's got to feel almost a little bit like a trade, a mid-season trade. Now you're working with all these people at Amazon Prime. What's that transition been like for you now with a totally new crew?
It couldn't have been better. I mean, it's almost seamless. They're very high-level hockey people with Amazon. People that have been in the business with CBC or Rogers or the other networks, TSN, throughout their careers. And, the tools we have, the level of commitment to making sure every Monday night is going to be the best experience for a viewer in the markets we're in across Canada. You feel the sense of pride. So being a part of that, it's refreshing, and it's really when you're part of something this high level, it makes you proud because their commitment to everything is off the charts. And with my role in Columbus, like regional games are great, but we don't have as many cameras. We don't have as many support teams. We don't have the focus on that one game a week. And I think that's one of the big parts here is it's a one game a week. And we'll finish the game Monday night tonight, and the preparation for the next game will start tomorrow. And we'll start getting emails and videos and all kinds of stories about what's happening. So it's so detailed. It's another level, I guess, of broadcasting. So it's been really enjoyable for me.
Well, much like players, us as fans and media members, I say in quotations, this is fan show for fans by fans. It's kind of our tagline and what we're building this into. As you know, in a smaller market, especially with us, we're dominated with Montreal and Toronto on either side. So we want to be a home where Senators fans can feel like they're number one. And you guys did a great job of making it feel like a regional broadcast. But what I'm getting to is we don't like change. We like our, we
Yeah.
know Claire Hanna and Mark Mathod are going to analyze the game. Cheryl Pounder is going to do the pregame over there. But you guys have crushed it so far, beyond our wildest expectations. I know this is the second of 3 games that you guys are doing for the Senators. The next one is coming up March 10th against Detroit, which the way Detroit's playing too, that could be a huge game with playoff. That's right after the trade deadline too. I think 3 days after the trade deadline. So that's going to be really exciting. But we're also giving you guys a little bit of credit for turning around the Sens season. When you guys came to Ottawa, it was the 4th of a 4-game homestand. Ottawa had just lost to Edmonton, Vegas, and Vancouver. We had one of the most depressing postcasts of all time after the Vancouver game. And then they were 8-11-1. Since then, the Senators are 19-9-3. Much like Columbus, 2 of the best stories in the NHL right now. What have you noticed when you're watching film getting ready for tonight's game for Ottawa that's allowed the Senators to have success this year?
Well, I think there's some key players that are healthy this year. When you look down the middle, Norris to me has been a guy that really hasn't been able to get his footing due to injury. Zub had a tough start to the season, inconsistent in and out of the lineup. He's so important for Jake Sanderson. You watch those guys, the lefty-righty combo. Pinto is another guy, missed half of the season last year. That's hard. I think you get back as a young guy and, you want to do it all at once. You want to make up for lost time, and then you don't really fit into your groove. I think with this healthy team playing in a system that they're starting to understand with the new coach, the guys have roles. That line last night or the other night against Washington, the third line with Greg, Pinto, and Amadio, they were out against Ovechkin almost every shift.
Yeah.
Norris takes the key faceoffs on the penalty kill. They understand their roles. It takes a little bit from Giroux, who's taken a lot of, maybe too many key draws. I know he takes them on the right side now, but they have a right mix. And I think when you have a right mix, you're not just focused on Stutzle to be the star to drive it every night, which I kind of felt from a distance. There were moments like that in the past. They're playing a team game. They know their roles. Shabbat. I mean, you're talking about 4 or 5 key guys here that have had struggles with injuries. And it's a huge impact, and it takes so much away from the players to be able to not find their rhythm. And you're seeing guys back this year now who are getting a good chunk of games that are finding the rhythm. And I think that is a key. And any team, you have to understand how to win games. I think they're now understanding it's going to be different ways, different nights, but they rely on their team system, and they still can get better.
Yeah, it's a great point. And Shabbat has now tied his total games played from last year with 51, missed 31. And you mentioned Shane Pinto going up against Washington's top line. We were giving him a ton of credit last Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. 15 of his 20 minutes were head-to-head against Austin Matthews. And Matthews had 1 shot on goal. It was super impressive what he's done. And if you want to throw this in the broadcast, LOSB stats department's been working on this because Pinto's missed all that time. Norris has missed all that time. When Stutzle, Norris, and Pinto are in the lineup, the Senators going into Saturday's game, 48, 28, and 6. That's 102 points in exactly 82 games. So it's to your point where the injuries have really stopped this development from occurring. Pilsy, any final questions for our guy Jody?
Yeah, I'm really interested. A team in a market you don't hear a lot about, especially in Canada, is the Columbus Blue Jackets, which you cover very closely and have been there for a long time. Try to explain to us, Jody, how this team is doing what they're doing. Because I think at the start of the year, everybody kind of thought, okay, they're going to have to figure things out. How are they going to bring this team with all these young guys and to start competing for playoff spots? Because it's been a while since they've been competitive, and they're finding ways to do it. Like, what to you is the biggest kind of reason why the Columbus Blue Jackets not only are in the mix for a playoff spot, but as of time of recording, they're in a wild card position right now?
Yeah, they have found what they are early in the season with the new coach. Dean Evison comes in, puts in a new system, figures out the players he's got, puts them in the right roles. I mean, he's tinkered a little bit. But we lost our captain in Boone Jenner. We lost Goodbranson, who's a big voice in the locker room. Zach Werenski then has been thrust into a leadership role. What I mean is he comes on a podcast or he does an interview and says, we were embarrassing. We have to be better. Well, that is new for Zach. And then he has to step in the next day and practice and in the next game and kind of show the way. He's a connector in the locker room, which is such a key. You have to have a guy who connects with everyone. He's doing that. He's healthy. But I think the guys they brought in, they picked up Aston Reese on waivers. They picked up
Well, Van Riemsdyk's playing pretty well too.
Van Riemsdyk is a great veteran. They signed him in the offseason. He's been a catalyst for the young guys. Kent Johnson is one of the players that just feeds off his knowledge of the game. They picked up the right veterans and put him in the right place. And I think that's boosted everyone in this organization. They have Monahan comes in. He was tremendous. He's injured now, but he really settled things down, allowed Fantilli to pick up his game. Took him a while to find it, but Fantilli now is the number one center with Monahan out. So they've let their young guys earn it. They've let their old guys and empowered their veteran guys to figure out their roles, and they have a belief in their team now. You know, they had a tragedy at the start of the year. They had to grieve together. They had to figure out what this landscape was going to look like, and they play for Johnny Gaudreau and Matty Gaudreau every single night. He's with them. They carry the jersey on the road. They talk about him. They've embraced it. This is a season for Johnny and moving forward. And there's a real spirit in that locker room. And I think that also, guys, let's be honest. The young guys have taken a step. You guys know it in Ottawa. The young guys have taken a step. And it takes 3 or 4 years for some of these guys with consistent play and staying healthy to get to where they're at. So we see the upside here. But right now it's been a really good first part of the season.
Yeah, we're obviously so focused in Ottawa about the Senators getting back to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. But if you tell me Ottawa's guaranteed a spot, Columbus is the team that I would love to see make the playoffs as well. Not only for the team on the ice, but for the broadcaster as well. Jody, really appreciate your time. We're looking forward to watching you tonight on Amazon Prime, and we'd love to do this again down the road. This has been a great chat.
Anytime, guys. I love the podcast. Like I said, every market I go into, I listen to the local podcast. You guys have a great show. Great information, even that little tidbit you told me about those 3 guys in their lineup. So I'll get that in the broadcast.
You want another one then? You want another one? Well, I got another one.
We got lots.
When Shane Pinto gets at least a point, all time, the Senators going into Saturday are 53-11-6. This year, they're 14-1-0 when Shane Pinto has a point.
Get him the points. You guys will be fine.
Get him on the board, eh? What's the record when Jody Shelley has a point in an NHL game?
I think it's 18-0.
All right, Pilsy. So, successful homestand for the Ottawa Senators, and now they will take their show on the road to Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, where it will be a 7:30 Eastern time start. I just realized we did that interview on Friday, so people saw me a little bit more clean-shaven, then with a beard, and now I'm back to being a little bit tidier. So that's the magic of podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a hoodie in my basement in Collingwood. Now I got a bit of a glow on, and I'm wearing a button-up floral shirt in Tampa. So we just did a bit of time travel there.
Hey, life happens fast. Any final thoughts on today's show? I'm excited for this game tonight.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah, I'm excited as well. Final thoughts for me is Belleville this weekend. They had 2 games up against the Utica Comets. The first one didn't go their way, 1-0 loss. But the second one, at home for the good people in the Bay of Quinte, they get a 4-3 win. I believe it was Stephen Halliday that got the OT winner too. So,
Bonjo.
Oh, it's Bonjo. Okay. Hey, man. I mean, those 2 are 2 peas in a pod, so easy to mix that up.
He was dishing though. He had 3 assists.
Not a disher, I've heard.
He was dishing the pill. Love to see that. Another great day to be an Ottawa Senators fan. Hopefully the boys can make it 5 in a row tonight in Nashville. We'll see you in the postcast after the game. For now, have a great one. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. It means a lot to Pilsy and I. Make sure to subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube, where we'll see you after the game. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.